Hello, and welcome back to our Vectorworks 2026 drafting tutorials. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at working with the basic tool set. As we saw in the overview, our basic tool set is up here in the upper left-hand corner and contains the most often used tools to create shapes and objects. We're going to start with the selection tool, which is this arrow cursor up in the corner. And if I hover over any of these tools, I'll get a little call-out box that gives me a brief description as to what the tool does, and also gives me a keyboard shortcut. In the case of the selection tool, that is the letter X. I use that almost exclusively. I rarely, if ever, actually click on this tool. I'm almost always using the keyboard shortcut, so I would recommend getting used to that. It's just faster and simpler. As you might expect, this is for selecting various objects. So if I hover over an object, it will temporarily turn orange, telling me that's the object that I would select should I click. So if I click on it, now it's selected, it's turned orange, and I get these individual blue handles on it. We'll go into those in just a bit. Like all of our basic tools, the selection tool has a variety of modes that it can be used in. Our most common ones are right up here, starting with our marquee rectangle or rectangle marquee. So if I click and drag, anything that is inside that boundary when I let go of my mouse will become selected. And then I can just click an empty space to deselect that. Next is the lasso marquee. I'm going to click and drag, and I'll draw a line in whatever shape I want around various objects, and anything that's included within that line will also get selected. Our third one is the polygon marquee. Works very similar to the lasso, but can be a bit more precise. So I can click and drag, and anytime I want to change directions, I'll click my mouse again. To draw a shape, and then double click to end. And anything that was entirely inside that marquee will then get selected. I would recommend leaving this in rectangular marquee. It's the one you're going to use 99% of the time. For simplicity's sake, if you need to, on an individual basis, use one of the other ones, I would say activate it then, but to keep it in the rectangular marquee the rest of the time. When I select these, we noted that there are these blue handles that appear. These are for reshaping the size and shape of the rectangle. So if I hover over this top center one and click on it and move my mouse up, now I'm changing the vertical size of that rectangle. Same with grabbing one of the sides, I can do the horizontal size of that rectangle. Then just Control Z to undo, like most software platforms. If I grab one of the corner ones, I'm going to affect both the vertical and horizontal at the same time. Depending on where I place my cursor, it will resize my rectangle relative to that. If I want to resize my rectangle in its scale, I can grab the corner handle and hold Shift, and now it will affect the horizontal and the vertical parts of that rectangle equally to make it larger or smaller. And that's pretty much the selection tool. Next up is our line tool that exists right here. Its keyboard shortcut is the number 2. I use that a fair amount just because I'm used to drawing a lot of lines, and it does exactly what you would think it would do. So basically I get this little cursor, and I can click once to start my line, and once it's at the length that I want it to be, I can click again to make it stop. If I want it to be a specific length, I can start it And I have my floating datum bar there, and I can just hit tab and say I want this to be 8 feet, and it will give me a line that's exactly 8 feet long. Additionally, if I want to connect lines at a specific angle, I can do that as well. So I can start my line here, and right now that's at a 30-degree angle, but I'm going to tab in and say I want this to be 4 feet long, and I want it to be at a 55-degree angle. And it sets that for me, and I can click again to make that line. Like our other tools, there are various modes for these. The constrained mode means that the line will only draw at specific angles, being 90 degrees, 45 degrees, and 30 degrees. So I can do it horizontally at 90 degrees. I can do it at 30 degrees. I can do it at 45 degrees, but it won't let me do it in between those angles at all. Most of the time you're going to want to be in the unconstrained mode, which is what I drew in initially, so I can do that at almost any angle that I want without being constrained. Next up in our modes is the vertex mode, which is I was just showing you start with one click and finish with another click. There is also a center out mode where I can start where I want the center of the line to be and draw it out and turn it to a specific angle and then click again to complete the line. I don't use this very often, but in specific instances it can be really helpful. So by and large you want to stay in the unconstrained vertex mode for your various lines. The next tool right next to line is the double line tool. This can be pretty useful when doing scenic drafting or drafting construction drawings, doing the outline of walls, etc. So as our little call out says, draws a double constrained or unconstrained line. Essentially it's two lines in parallel. So if I click on that and click and drag, I'm drawing two parallel lines at exactly the same time. The distance between those lines can be adjusted and changed. There is a separation up here, so right now it's set at 1 inch, but you could definitely make that larger if you wanted that to be, say, 6 inches. Now I'm going to be drawing two parallel lines that are 6 inches apart. Like our regular line tool, there are constrained and unconstrained modes that you can draw in. Again, I recommend you doing it in unconstrained. That's what you're going to want the majority of the time. And there's some additional modes right next to that over here, and it's how the lines get drawn. So the first one is left control line mode, which means your cursor is going to go along the left side of what you're drawing, kind of like so. Next one is going to be center. So your cursor will center right on top of whatever you're drawing. So your parallel lines will be on either side of that mark. And the third one is right control mode. So it'll draw around the right side of what you're doing. This is just easier to know basically what side or where your parallel lines are going to be relative to the rest of your drawing. One thing that can be really useful with the double line tool is you can actually create polygons out of it. So if you were, say, drafting flats or platforms, you can go up to this wrench and pencil icon right here, and that opens up your preferences. Again, you can do your separation, how far apart you want them, but there's an option here to create polygons. So I'm going to click that and say OK, and now when I click and drag, as soon as I finish that, it's going to enclose that shape, and if I look in my object info palette, it's telling me that I have a polygon, what the relative size of it is. So for example, if I wanted to draft a 4 by 8 foot flat, I could change this to 8 feet. And now when I click and drag, I'll click and tab into my floating datum and say I want that to be 4 feet wide. And then I'll finish that off. And now I have a 4 foot by 8 foot flat. Let's say I want to do the framing for that now, and I'm going to frame that out in 1x material. So the edge is going to be 3/4 of an inch. So now I can say, great, I want to frame that out like so. And there's my framing without the toggles. I can obviously enter those in as well. But that can be a really fast way of putting information in. If I wanted to do a 4x8 platform, maybe I'm only going to have it be at 4 feet this time. So when I click and drag, I'll tab into my floating datum bar and type in 8 feet. That gives me that marker. And now I have a horizontal 4x8 foot square. I can change this back and say this is going to get framed with 1x material. So my lines need to be 1.5 inches apart from each other. And now I can draw in my framing like so. Our next tool is going to be our rectangle tool. And the shortcut for that is the number 4. So with Vectorworks active, I can just hit 4, and now it activates the rectangle tool here. The rectangle tool has 4 modes up at the top here. The first and most common is going to be the corner to corner mode. So if I just click an empty space and I drag my mouse, I can draw a rectangle. For now, I'm going to start a new one. And as I start that rectangle, I'm going to press tab to get into this floating datum bar. And I'm going to make the X 8 feet. I want that rectangle to be 8 feet wide. Okay, and I'm going to make the Y 4 feet. Oops, 8 feet, 4 feet, there we go. And that's going to lock that in at those specific dimensions. I have a 4 foot by 8 foot rectangle, and I can just click my mouse to complete that, and here's the rectangle that I've just drawn. Our next mode is the center to corner mode, so you're drawing from the center of the rectangle out. So with that selected, I'm going to find the top center smart point of the rectangle I just drew. I'm going to click to start the new rectangle and tab in, and I'm going to make this 1 foot wide, and let's make this 2 feet on the Y. And that'll lock that in at that dimension, and I can click to complete it, and there's my other new rectangle. The third mode that we're going to look at is the midpoint to corner mode. And for this, I'm going to establish a new smart point that we haven't seen before. So I'm going to come to the bottom right corner of the rectangle I just drew and grab that smart point. I'm going to move my mouse over and get the center right smart point of the first rectangle. And now I have this new tick mark that's right in the middle of those 2 smart points. So that's where I actually want to start my rectangle. So I'm going to click there and start it. I'm going to hit tab again and say I want this to be 1 foot wide, and let's make it -4 feet. That looks pretty good. We're locked in at those dimensions, so I will click to complete that rectangle. As I mentioned before in class, all of these things, when they're selected, can be referenced in the object info palette. So right now I have this one selected. I've got that orange halo around it. I can come up to my object info palette and hover over that to expand it. It's going to tell me what class my rectangle it is in, what layer it's on, what plane it's on. We'll go through all of these things in a little bit more depth later on. It gives me my overall width and height. It gives me a grid of 9 different points here, And depending on which one of these I select, that's the point it will reference were I to change these distances at all. This information is where it's located on the page on the drawing, and then if it has any rotation to it. And then there's a little bit of just geographic or geometric information here in terms of what its perimeter is, what its square footage is, etc. The next tool we're going to look at is our circle tool. The shortcut for it is the number 6, so I can hit 6 and it activates my circle tool, which is right here in my basic tool set. The circle has a variety of different modes for creation. We're going to look at the first two, which are the most common. So the very first one here on the left hand side is radius mode, so you're defining the size of the circle based solely on its radius. So with that selected, I can come down to the bottom of the last rectangle that I drew until I get to the bottom center smart point. I'm going to click on that and drag this out until I get to the bottom right. That's going to define my radius, and I will click and complete my circle. The next mode is diameter mode, so I'm going to click to select that. And for this one, I'm going to hover over the top left corner of my original rectangle, and I'm going to click on that, and I can either drag it down until it hits the center left smart point of that original rectangle, or much like the rectangle tool, I can tab into that floating datum bar and say I want the diameter of the circle to be 2 feet. It's going to give me that information and lock that in, and I can click that, and now I've got another 2-foot diameter circle. Next tool we'll look at is the polyline tool. This is a way of creating irregular polygons and geometric shapes. Its keyboard shortcut is the number 5, so if I hit that, it'll activate it. The tool is right here in our basic tool set, and it also has a number of different modes. We're just going to look at a couple of them for starters right now. So the first one is corner vertex mode. It's simply a way of drawing straight lines, and so I can just click, and whatever lines I draw, it's going to sort of be creating that polygon. Like so. What we're going to do is draft around the shapes that we've already drawn right here and create it in one specific polygon. So with our corner vertex mode selected, I'm going to start on the bottom right corner of the original rectangle. And I'm going to start to just click around the perimeter of this shape. So top right, the center right of this rectangle, the top right, the top left, the center left of that rectangle, to the top left. There I'm going to pause because I'm at that circle and I need to create that arc. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to select the point on arc mode. Notice that I can do this while I'm in mid-operation with this tool. So I'm going to select that. So here I need to define a point on the arc that I want to draw. In this case, it's going to be the center left of this circle. And then I'm going to finish it by doing the center left of that rectangle. Now I've successfully drawn that arc. I'm going to come back up and switch back to my corner vertex mode and continue around the perimeter of my piece till I get to the bottom left. I'm going to come back up and do the point on arc mode again to get around this arc. So bottom center and then bottom right of that rectangle. Then I'll switch back to my corner vertex mode and draw these last two vertices. And now I have drawn a single geometric shape on top of those other shapes that I've already had. So for now, I'm going to grab the center of this and I'm just going to drag it off to the left here out of the way so that we can see here are the shapes that I started with, and this is the polyline that I drew based on those shapes. The next tool that we're going to look at is the polygon tool as opposed to the polyline tool. The shortcut for the polygon tool is the number 8. So if I select that, here is my polygon tool in the basic tool set. The big thing to note here is that you can't draw curves with it. This is simply for drawing specific polygons. It has a vertex mode, much like the polyline tool, where I can just draw the shape of my polygon, whatever that's going to be, reconnect it, and it will create that shape. However, the real power in it kind of lies in the other two modes that it has. So for now, we're going to select the one on the far right here, which is the outer boundary mode. It looks like a lasso. And this is going to create a polygon out of everything that is bound inside of what I draw. So if I select that and I draw a lasso around all of these rectangles and circles that we started with, it's going to create instantaneously a polygon that's identical to the one that I did with the polyline tool. So for now, I'm going to take this and drag it down out of the way. And you can see that it actually creates this new polygon in a non-destructive fashion. All of the shapes that I started with are still there. It's simply referencing that information and creating a new polygon out of them. The next mode is the inner boundary mode, and it's going to essentially create a new polygon, but doing the opposite of what the lasso tool did. So this one looks like a little paint bucket. So we're going to select it. So we've got inner boundary mode. I'm going to come over to my shapes right here and click on that. And you can see it has created a new polygon that is just the internal shape of that polygon. So I can take it down here. And you can see here is my new polygon, and again, it's been done in a non-destructive fashion, so all of my original rectangles and circles and shapes still exist up here. Next is the double line polygon tool. It is right next to the polygon tool in the basic tool set. Its shortcut is option 8. I don't think I've ever used that just because it's overly complicated. I'll just click on the tool if I need it. But much like the double line tool, it has different modes that are referencing which line it is you're going to be drawing, and then what your overall separation is. So for now, I'm going to have it on right control line mode and have the separation be 6 inches. And I'm just going to click in some empty space on my drawing and drag my mouse off to the right. And basically I'm going to make a 4-foot double line square here. So I'm going to tab into my floating datum bar and tell it that I want this to be 4 feet. And I'll click to set that point, and then I'll come down. It's telling me that it's vertical, so I'll tab in again, make that another 4 feet. Click to set that one. I'll repeat that process horizontally. Good. And then I'll do one more at the end to click and complete. And now I have a polygon that actually has double lines. This can be really helpful when we get into drawing things like walls, but we aren't necessarily using the building shell or the 3D building tool set. So we'll definitely come back to this in later projects. The next tool that we'll look at is the regular polygon tool. That is this tool right here in the basic tool set. And it's essentially a way of drawing symmetrical geometric shapes relatively simply. So I'm going to click on that to activate it. There's a couple of different modes that it has here. There is a radius mode to see, make how large your polygon wants to be. There is also a edge mode, basically measuring the length of one of the edges of the polygon to determine its size. And then you can set the number of sides that you want to do. So for now, I'm going to have it in radius mode, and I'm going to make the number of sides 6. And then down here in empty space, I'm just going to click to start my polygon, and there it is. I'm drawing my hexagon symmetrically by size by its radius. Like many of the other tools, I'm going to tab into that floating datum bar, and I want the radius to be 12 inches. So I'm just going to type 12 and hit enter. There's my 12-inch radius hexagon, and I can click to complete that, and I have my object. In terms of the edge mode, I'm going to come back up here and click on it to select that, and this time I'm going to change my number of sides to 8, so I'm going to draw an octagon, and I'll click down here in empty space, and now it's drawing an octagon based on the length of one of the sides that I give it. Again, I'm going to tell it that I want one side to be 12 inches. There it is, and I can click to complete that, and there is my octagon with a 12-inch radius. The next tool is our reshape tool, and this is a way of affecting the overall shape of any sort of 2D polygon. The tool itself is right here in the basic tool set, but the easiest way to activate it is to just double click on a polygon. So I'm going to come over here to my octagon that I just drew. I'll double click on that, and now I get each of these little blue handles that can each be manipulated to change the shape. So I'm just going to kind of select them randomly and kind of affect the shape of this polygon a little bit, just so you can see the overall idea of it, something kind of like that. When I'm all done and I've got the shape that I want, I can just hit X to activate my selection tool and click in empty space to deselect it. Next is our rotate tool. You can use this to rotate any two-dimensional object on a two-dimensional plane. It's important to know that the rotate tool will not work unless you have an object selected before you try and use it. So I'm going to go ahead and select that polygon that I just manipulated with the reshape tool. We'll click on it so it's highlighted. And then my rotate tool is over in the basic tool set. Right here, its keyboard shortcut is Option equals. I don't think I've ever used that. I'll just click on it when I need it. So I'm going to click on that, and then I get this this protractor. And for our purposes here, I'm going to come and find my center smart point of this polygon, and I'm going to click it to tell it that's where I want the fulcrum, that's where I want it rotating around. I'm going to come out here to basically establish a rotation arm. I'll click again and drag it down. You can see the outline of how my piece is rotating. In this case, I've got it rotated at a 45-degree angle, and I'll click to complete that. And now we have a rotated polygon in a different direction. Another version of that would be, rather than rotating it around the center, maybe I want to grab this endpoint over here, and that's where I want the fulcrum, that's where I want to rotate around. So I'll click on that, I'll come out here to the left and click again, and then rotate my object 240 degrees, and click again, and I've got that object in its new rotated state. Next is going to be our mirror tool. And much like the rotate tool, the mirror tool will not work unless you previously have an object selected. So I'm going to zoom in on the polygon that was created with the inner boundary mode of the polygon tool. It's this kind of bizarre looking shape. And I'm just going to click to select that. And then I'm going to come and activate my mirror tool, which in the basic tool set is right here. I will click on that. There are two specific modes with the mirror tool. The first one that we're going to use is duplicate mode, which means it's going to create an additional version of whatever it is you're mirroring. There is the standard mode, which is you are mirroring an object, but the original object will disappear because you're just changing its orientation. In this instance, we want to duplicate. We want to create another version of this polygon. So what I'm going to do is with my polygon selected and my mirror tool activated, I'm going to come to the endpoint in the upper right of this polygon and click on that. And as I drag my mouse down, you'll see there's an outline of that same polygon showing what line you're mirroring it across and what it's going to look like when it's finished. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to click again. And now I have a duplicated mirrored version of that same polygon. I'm going to do that 2 more times. So I'm going to mirror the one I just created around its horizontal line. So I'll click in that lower endpoint, move my mouse to the left, and I get that outline of what it's going to look like. I'll click to complete that. And then with this one still selected, I'll do that one more time. So I've got 4 of the same polygons that are intersecting at center. From here, I actually want to turn this into one solid object, one polygon itself. And we're going to use a slightly different tool for that. So I'm going to select all of these. Easiest way to do that is I'm going to click, hold shift and click each one of these so that all 4 of them are selected. And then I'm going to come up to my main toolbar to modify. Remember, modify is when we're changing geometric shapes. And I want to add surface right here. So I click on that. I have added a surface to those polygons and made it all one shape. It is important to know that this is done in a destructive fashion, so if I were to click and move this, the shapes that I started out with are no longer there because Vectorworks has literally combined all of them into one individual polygon rather than referencing the shapes to create a new polygon. The next tool we're going to look at is our trim tool. It's the one that looks like a set of scissors over here in the basic tool set. Essentially, this will allow you to trim polygons where they intersect with other polygons. So we're going to zoom into the section where all of the original rectangles and circles are that we drew to define that initial shape. And then I'm going to click on that icon to activate my trim tool. And if I come over here and I hover on this circle, it tells me that's the object that's going to be trimmed. And it's going to trim it relative to any of its intersecting lines. So if I was to come to the bottom and select it, it's going to trim it off where it intersects with that rectangle, which isn't necessarily what I want. In this instance, I want to come up and I want to trim the top half of it. So I'm going to click there, and now it just gives me a semicircle on the bottom of that rectangle. I'm going to come up here to this other circle, and I'm going to trim the inside of it. So it's going to do that. I'm going to come to this top rectangle and I'm going to trim it so it'll trim to where it intersects with this rectangle. And one more time, I'm going to click to trim that one. So now I'm creating a shape that looks more like the other shapes that we've created off of it, but they're still individual pieces rather than one whole collective polygon. Next is going to be the fillet tool. This is used for rounding the corner of polygons like rectangles. So I'm going to zoom in here to that first duplication that we made that is just one large collective polygon. And I'm going to come over right next to the scissors in my basic tool set is the fillet tool. Its shortcut is number 7. I'm just going to click on that to activate it. There are 3 different modes. The one that we're going to look at today, and the most common one, is going to be trim mode. That's going to make our smoothest circle. And for this exercise, I'm going to make the fillet radius be 6 inches. So the way this tool works is once it's activated and we've got that information defined, if I hover on this line right here, it will highlight it. This is telling me that this is the line where my fillet will start. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and then I'm going to drag my mouse up to this horizontal line, and it's telling me this is the line where my fillet is going to end, and I've got this line, this angled line in the middle telling me that's the direction that it's going to go. So I'm going to click that, and now I have a curved corner rather than a sharp corner of that polygon. So I'm going to continue around the perimeter of this drawing. So I'm going to go from the horizontal to the vertical. Great. And just going along the perimeter, doing all of my 90-degree corners so that all of those are soft and rounded. Great. Once I'm done with that, I can hit X to activate my selection tool and click on empty space to deselect that polygon. Next will be the chamfer tool. It's similar to the fillet tool in terms of it's affecting the way that different things different lines intersect each other. But rather than rounding it, it's going to give it an angled chamfer. So I'm going to zoom into this last duplication that we made of that first polygon. And my chamfer tool is right here in the basic tool set. So I'm going to click that to select it. Again, there's 3 different modes. We're going to stick with the trim mode just like we did in the fillet tool. And there is a first line and a second line. So right now those are both set to 6 inches. Let's just try and see what that does for us. I think it's going to be too much, but I'm going to click on this first line to start it. The second line, no, that's actually pretty good. We're going to stick with 6 inches there. So obviously I have taken that sharp 90-degree corner off and I've made it more of an angled 45-degree corner with that chamfer. So now I'm just going to go along like I did with the fillet tool, and I'm going to chamfer each of my 90-degree intersections so that all of them have a chamfer to them, and my new polygon will look just like that. When I'm all done, again, I can hit X to activate my selection tool. I can click an empty space just to deselect anything I may have had selected, and I'm all finished. Next is going to be our offset tool. This is a way of creating scaled duplications of various objects and shapes. So if I activate it, it's right here next to the chamfer tool in the basic tool set. And you'll see that it has 4 different modes. It's actually 2 different sets of 2 The first one is going to be offset by distance. That's what we're going to use more often than not. I can set a specific distance, and that's where I want the new one to be created. The other one is offset by point mode, so you can offset it to a certain point. I don't know that I've ever actually used that one, but it is there should you want it. Next is going to be duplicate and offset mode, which means it's going to create a new version of that shape that is going to be scaled to fit the distance that you have predetermined. And then offset original object mode will simply offset the object that you select, but no duplication will be created. So to show you kind of how this works, I'm going to have it be in offset by distance mode. I'm going to have it be in duplicate and offset mode, and I'm going to set the distance to 1 inch. So to do this, I'm going to activate my rectangle tool. Remember, that's keyboard shortcut number 4. And I'm just going to draw a quick square that is 2 feet by 2 feet. So tab into there, 2 feet. Oops, not 2 inches, 2 feet. Nope. Oh, I see I'm in the wrong mode. This is why modes matter. So I'm going to hit escape to get out of all of that. I want to be in corner vertex mode. I was in midpoint to corner mode because that was the last thing that we did earlier on, but I want to be in corner vertex mode to make that the correct size. So I'm going to try that again. Yep, that looks a little bit better. And I'm going to make that 2 feet and make that 2 feet. Great. And I'll click to complete. There's my new rectangle, the size that I want it to be. And then with that selected, I'm going to select my offset tool. If I were to click outside of this box, it could create a box that is 1 inch larger all around. This one is actually on top of the original rectangle that I drew. You can see that there's a dashed line underneath saying there's another object under there, but because it has a solid fill, I can't see it. I'm just going to delete that one for now and reselect that rectangle I drew, activate my offset tool again, and this time I'm going to click inside of it, and you can see that it creates another square that it's 1 inch smaller on each side. I'm going to do that again and again, and I'm just going to keep on going, clicking inside each of the new squares till I've got like 10 of them. And then there will come a point where it can no longer execute the operation because there just isn't enough space. But now I've got 10 squares that are all 1 inch offset from each other. So if I wanted to design some sort of pyramid type structure or even staircase, I could then take this and make each one of those squares a different height to create a staircase out of it. But that essentially is the offset tool. The last tool that we're going to look at in this exercise is our Move by Points tool. So I'm going to start by just drawing another 2 foot square rectangle. So again, I'll activate my rectangle tool, number 4, and I will do this as 2 feet and 2 feet. Great, there's my new rectangle. I'll just move it down a little bit so it's out of the way. And now I'm going to move and duplicate these by a specific distance. So underneath the scissors in the basic tool set, there is the Move by Points tool. I can select that. Again, it's got a variety of modes. We're going to mainly work in move and duplicate mode. And over here you can set the number of duplicates that you want to have. So with this rectangle selected and my Move by Points tool activated, I'm going to click on the center of it, and as I move my cursor to the right, you can see that it makes more and more of those squares being evenly spaced along a specific distance, and that there are going to be 5 of them. So I'm going to tab into my floating datum bar. I'm going to hit tab twice and say that I want this to be 2 feet 6. So it's going to be 2 feet 6 on center, and hit enter. It gives me that distance, and I can click to complete that. And now I have 5 equally sized squares that are spaced 2 feet 6 inches on center together. And that's essentially how the Move by Points tool works. So that concludes this basic tool set tutorial. Please save this file. Do it in the format of your last name _ basic tool tutorial, and upload this to the assignment on Nexus.